She was only 7, clutching a crumpled $1 bill and staring at the injured German shepherd lying helplessly in the dirt. The seller laughed, calling her foolish. "You're wasting your money," someone shouted. But she didn't care. "He needs help," she whispered. No one knew that tiny act of kindness would change everything. When the truth about the dog's past came out, even the officers couldn't hold back their emotions. This is not just a story about a rescue. It's about how a single dollar bought something priceless. A miracle. Stay till the end, it will break your heart. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The morning sun had barely climbed over the sleepy horizon when the sound of crows echoed across the dusty road that led through the edge of town. Broken fences lined the fields and the scent of damp hay filled the air. Beside an old wooden cart, half hidden beneath a pile of straw, lay a German shepherd, motionless, bruised, and breathing faintly. His once proud coat was matted with dirt, and a thin trail of dried blood marked the path behind him. The town's early risers passed by without stopping, too busy, too indifferent, or perhaps too used to seeing suffering to care anymore. But there was something different about this dog, a quiet strength even in his pain. Every few seconds, his ears twitched at distant sound, the creak of a wheel, the whisper of a child's laughter somewhere nearby. His dark eyes, heavy with exhaustion, reflected both fear and longing. Someone had abandoned him here. A faint collar clung to his neck, but the tag was missing, worn away by time and neglect. Flies buzzed around his wounds as he tried weakly to lift his head, only to collapse again into the straw. The small town of Maple Hollow wasn't a cruel place, but it was a forgotten one. People worked hard, earned little, and kept their heads down. No one had time for a dying dog. The few who noticed him just shook their heads. "Poor thing won't make it through the day," one man muttered before walking away. The German shepherd's chest rose and fell unevenly, his breath shallow but persistent, as if some part of him still clung to hope, waiting for a miracle. And that miracle was closer than anyone knew. Just beyond the fence, a little girl in a faded blue coat and muddy shoes stood watching, her eyes wide, her heart breaking. She didn't see a dying dog. She saw someone who needed her, and in that moment, her story, and his, quietly began. Her name was Lily, a 7-year-old with tangled brown hair, bright blue eyes, and a spirit far bigger than her small frame. Every morning she walked the same dirt path to the market with her father, carrying a basket of eggs from their hens to sell. They didn't have much. Their old farmhouse creaked in the wind, and some nights dinner was just bread and milk. But Lily never complained. She believed that kindness was worth more than coins, something her late mother had always told her. That morning, as Lily passed the wooden cart again, she saw the same German shepherd lying there, still breathing, still waiting. Her tiny heart tightened. She set her basket down and knelt beside him. His eyes opened slightly, meeting hers for the first time. In that silent gaze, something unspoken passed between them. Pain, fear, and a faint spark of trust. "Hey there, boy," she whispered, brushing straw from his fur. He didn't move, but his tail gave the slightest twitch. "Lily," her father's voice called from the road. "Come on, we're running late." She hesitated, glancing from her father to the wounded dog. Then, with a sudden burst of determination, she reached into the pocket of her coat and pulled out a single crumpled dollar, the only money she had saved from helping her neighbor last week. She clutched it tightly in her small hand and ran toward the man standing near the cart. "Sir," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "How much for the dog?" The man raised an eyebrow, half amused. "That thing? He's as good as gone. You can take him for $1 if you want." He chuckled, thinking she wouldn't dare. Without hesitation, Lily held out the wrinkled bill. "I'll take him," she said. The man blinked in surprise, then shrugged. "He's yours." As Lily knelt beside the dog again, she whispered softly, "You're coming home with me now." And for the first time in days, the German shepherd lifted his head, as if he understood. Word spread quickly through the small town. The little girl who spent her only dollar on a dying dog. Some called it sweet, others called it foolish. At the bakery, Mrs. Porter shook her head. "That poor child doesn't know what she's gotten herself into," she said, kneading dough with heavy hands. At the general store, the old men sitting on the porch laughed softly. "$1 wasted," one of them muttered. "That mutt won't last till morning." But Lily didn't hear their words. She was too busy carrying the German Shepherd home, step by careful step, her small hands gripping the leash as if holding on to hope itself. Her father, Tom, stood at the gate when he saw her approaching. His eyes widened. "Lily, what in the world?" he began, rushing forward. The dog stumbled beside her, his legs trembling. "He was hurt, Daddy," Lily said quickly. "No one was helping him. I couldn't just leave him there." Tom stared at her, torn between disbelief and pride. "Sweetheart, we can't even afford medicine for ourselves," he said softly. But when he looked at the dog's weak, pleading eyes, something inside him shifted. Together they laid the dog on an old blanket under the porch. Lily fetched a bowl of water, her small hands shaking as she set it down. "Drink," she whispered, watching anxiously. The German Shepherd lifted his head slowly and took a few weak laps. Lily's face lit up like sunrise. "See, Daddy? He wants to live." By evening, curious neighbors had gathered by the fence, whispering among themselves. "The girl's wasting her time," someone said. "You can't save everything." Lily ignored them. She sat beside the dog, humming softly, her tiny fingers brushing his fur with tenderness. That night, as the wind rustled through the fields, Lily knelt in prayer by his side. "Please, God," she whispered, "don't let him die." And somewhere in the darkness, the dog's tail gave a faint, hopeful wag, a silent promise that their fight had only just begun. The next few days tested Lily's heart in ways she'd never known before. The German Shepherd, whom she had now named Buddy, could barely move. His breathing was shallow, and each time she touched him, she could feel his ribs pressing sharply beneath his skin. Every morning before school, she would sit beside him, gently cleaning his wounds with warm water and the tiny bit of ointment her father could spare. Tom watched quietly from the doorway, torn between wanting to protect his daughter from disappointment and being moved by her determination. At night, Lily stayed awake, whispering stories to Buddy under the dim light of an old lantern. She told him about her mother, how she loved dogs, how she used to bake bread every Sunday, and how she always said, "Every act of kindness comes back someday." Buddy listened with tired eyes, his tail twitching faintly whenever she spoke. Sometimes he whimpered, as if answering her. Those small signs gave her strength. Tom began to notice little things. Buddy's eyes started to follow Lily when she moved. He tried to lift his head when she entered the room. It wasn't much, but it was enough to spark hope. Still, the expenses worried Tom. "Lily," he said one evening, sitting on the porch, "we can't keep using medicine meant for the cows." But Lily only smiled softly. "It's okay, Daddy. Love can heal too." Her words silenced him, not because he believed them yet, but because he wanted to. Rain came that night, drumming against the roof as thunder rolled over the fields. Lily ran outside to cover Buddy with an old coat, shivering as she shielded him from the storm. "It's okay, boy," she whispered through trembling lips. "You're safe now." And when the storm finally passed, something changed. Buddy lifted his head, pressed his nose gently against her hand, and for the first time, he stood. Wobbly, weak, but standing. Lily gasped, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You did it," she cried. "You're getting better." In that moment, the bond between them became unbreakable. Morning sunlight poured through the cracks in the old barn, painting golden lines across the hay where Buddy lay resting. Only this time he wasn't motionless. His ears perked when he heard Lily's voice calling his name. "Buddy, breakfast!" she sang softly, carrying a bowl of warm broth her father had helped prepare. To her surprise, Buddy lifted his head and wagged his tail, not weakly but with purpose. Lily froze, her lips parting in awe. "Daddy, he's eating!" she cried. Tom hurried over, and for the first time in days he saw strength flicker in the dog's eyes. Buddy drank slowly, each swallow steady and deliberate. When he finished, he nudged Lily's hand as if to thank her. She giggled through tears, hugging him gently. "See, I told you you'd get better." Tom smiled faintly, shaking his head. "Looks like you were right, kiddo." Days passed, and Buddy began to follow her around the yard, limping but determined. Lily made it her mission to rebuild his strength. Slow walks, careful feeding, and soft words that gave him courage. Sometimes the other children stopped to watch. "That's the dog you bought for $1?" one boy asked. Lily nodded proudly. "Yes. He's my best friend now. By the end of the week, Buddy's bark returned, deep, strong, and echoing through the fields like a declaration of life. The neighbors who had once mocked now peeked through their windows, whispering in surprise. "That dog's still alive?" one murmured. But Tom only smiled when he saw Buddy run clumsily after a thrown stick, his tail wagging wildly. That night, Lily sat beside him under the stars. "You were never broken," she whispered. "You just needed someone to believe in you." Buddy rested his head on her lap, eyes glimmering in the moonlight. For the first time since her mother's passing, Lily felt the warmth of hope filling the emptiness in her heart. Neither of them knew it yet, but Buddy's healing was only the beginning of something far greater. A week later, as Buddy grew stronger, Lily decided to give him a proper bath. The afternoon sun shimmered through the trees as she filled a metal tub behind their farmhouse. "Hold still, Buddy," she laughed, splashing warm water over his back. The German Shepherd shook himself playfully, drenching her from head to toe. For the first time in months, the yard echoed with pure laughter, a sound Tom hadn't heard since his wife's passing. But as Lily scrubbed the dirt from Buddy's neck, her fingers brushed against something hard beneath his fur. She frowned. "What's this?" Tom leaned in, curious. "Looks like a microchip scar," he murmured, his brows furrowing. Carefully, he parted the fur near Buddy's collarbone and found a faint metal tag embedded beneath the skin, faded but still intact. Etched across it were a few barely legible letters and numbers. "We should get this checked," Tom said softly, unease creeping into his voice. The next morning, they took Buddy to the town's small veterinary clinic. Dr. Harris, a gentle middle-aged vet, scanned the chip and stared at the screen for a long, silent moment. "This dog, he's not just any stray," he said finally. "He's registered to the police K9 division in Crestwood County, 2 towns over." Lily blinked. "Police?" she whispered. Dr. Harris nodded. "His name in the records is Ranger. He went missing nearly a year ago during a search and rescue mission. The officer he worked with didn't survive." The words hung in the air like a chill wind. Tom's heart sank as he looked at Buddy, no, Ranger, who now sat quietly beside Lily as if he understood every word. "So he was a hero," Lily murmured, stroking his fur gently. Dr. Harris smiled sadly. "A hero who found his way to someone who still believed in him." That night, as Lily lay awake, she stared at Ranger sleeping peacefully by her bed. The thought wouldn't leave her mind. What had happened that night he disappeared? And why had fate brought him to her? The next day, Tom made a few calls to Crestwood County. By evening, a police officer named Detective Morris arrived at their farmhouse, his expression solemn yet curious. He crouched beside Buddy, a Ranger, and spoke softly. "Hey, old boy. You remember me?" The German Shepherd tilted his head, sniffing Morris's uniform, and then, slowly, his tail began to wag. The officer smiled faintly. "It's really him." Inside, over steaming cups of coffee, Morris explained everything. Ranger had belonged to Officer Daniel Brooks, one of the department's finest canine handlers. A year ago, they had been searching for a missing child in the forest when a flash flood struck. Daniel managed to save the child, but he never made it out. Ranger was swept away in the current, presumed dead. "He must have wandered miles before ending up here," Morris said, shaking his head. "We searched for weeks." Lily's eyes glistened. "So he saved a child before he got hurt?" Morris nodded. "He did. Daniel called him the bravest partner he ever had." Tom leaned back in silence, humbled by the story. Ranger sat quietly by Lily's feet as if listening. His once empty eyes now held a strange wisdom, the weight of loss but also of purpose. Lily stroked his head gently. "You found me because you needed someone to love you again," she whispered. Morris looked at her, smiling softly. Maybe it was the other way around. Before leaving, the officer handed Tom a small worn badge. "This belonged to his handler," he said. "Keep it. I think Ranger would want you to have it." That night, as rain pattered against the windows, Lily held the badge close and whispered to the sleeping dog, "You're not just my buddy. You're a hero." Ranger's ears twitched at her voice. He shifted closer, resting his paw gently over her hand, as if promising that his days of saving lives weren't over yet. The next morning began like any other. Calm, golden sunlight spilling over the hills, birds chirping across the open sky. Lily ran through the yard, laughter echoing as Ranger chased after her with renewed energy. His coat now gleamed in the light, his stride strong and confident once more. Tom watched from the porch, a proud smile spreading across his face. "He's back to being himself," he murmured. But fate had something unexpected in store that day. A moment that would remind everyone who Ranger truly was. Lily had wandered near the old creek behind their property, tossing stones into the shallow water. Ranger followed, tail wagging, but suddenly froze, his ears perked up, muscles stiffening. A low growl rumbled in his throat. "What is it, boy?" Lily asked, frowning. Before she could take another step, the ground beneath her gave way, the soft, rain-soaked soil crumbling into the deeper stream below. She screamed as her foot slipped, her tiny body sliding toward the rushing current. In a flash, Ranger lunged forward. His powerful jaws clamped onto her coat just before she fell completely in. He dug his claws into the mud, muscles straining, growling fiercely as he pulled her upward. Lily cried out, gripping his collar. "Don't let go, buddy," she sobbed. Inch by inch, Ranger dragged her back to safety, ignoring the sharp pain in his leg as the earth crumbled beneath them. Finally, with one last pull, he yanked her free and barked loudly, a deep, commanding sound that echoed through the fields. Tom came running, breathless. When he saw Lily trembling in Ranger's embrace, his heart stopped. He dropped to his knees, clutching her close. "You're safe," he whispered. His eyes turned to the German shepherd, panting, muddy, and covered in scratches. And for the first time, Tom truly understood. This wasn't just a dog Lily had saved. This was a protector, a guardian reborn through love, proving once again that heroes never forget how to save a life. The story of Lily and Ranger spread quickly through Maple Hollow. Neighbors who once doubted now came to visit, bringing treats and blankets for the brave dog who had saved the little girl's life. Reporters arrived from nearby towns eager to capture the tale of the $1 miracle dog. Cameras flashed as Lily hugged Ranger proudly, his golden brown eyes calm and noble beneath the morning sun. But amid the celebration, something unexpected happened. A familiar black car pulled up by the gate. Detective Morris stepped out once again, holding a small envelope in his hand. "I had to come back," he said softly, kneeling beside Ranger. "After hearing what he did, I thought you should see this." He handed Tom the envelope, its paper worn and creased with age. Inside was a letter written by Officer Daniel Brooks, Ranger's former handler, found among his recovered belongings. Tom unfolded it carefully and began to read aloud. Daniel's handwriting was shaky but sincere. "If anything ever happens to me, promise me Ranger won't be left alone. He's more than a partner, he's family. Whoever takes him in will find that he gives more than he ever receives. He'll protect them, even if it costs him everything." Tears welled in Lily's eyes as she looked down at Ranger resting beside her. "He kept his promise," she whispered. Morris smiled through misty eyes. "Looks like he found exactly who he was meant to protect, Tom exhaled deeply, placing the letter over Ranger's paw. "Funny," he said softly. "She paid $1 for a dog worth more than all the gold in the world." That evening, as the sun dipped low and the town quieted, Lily sat beside Ranger, the letter pressed close to her heart. "You were meant to find me," she whispered, tears glistening in her lashes. Ranger nuzzled her hand gently, his eyes warm with understanding. And in that silent moment, Lily realized that single dollar hadn't just saved a dog's life. It had changed hers forever. Weeks passed, and Maple Hollow never looked the same again. Wherever Lily and Ranger went, smiles followed. The girl who had once been teased for spending her only dollar on a dying dog was now a local hero, and so was her loyal companion. Ranger's strength had fully returned. His fur shone like polished bronze, and his proud stance reminded everyone that he was once a guardian of justice. Yet to Lily he was simply family, her best friend, her protector, her miracle. One morning, Detective Morris returned once more, this time with an official letter from the police department. "Lily," he said gently, kneeling before her, "they want to honor Ranger for his service and for saving you." She gasped, her small hands flying to her mouth. "Really?" he nodded. "They're calling it the Medal of Courage." At the town square, a small ceremony was held. The crowd clapped as Morris placed a silver medal around Ranger's neck. Cameras flashed, but Lily barely noticed. Her eyes were filled with tears. She knelt beside Ranger, whispering, You were always a hero. I just helped you remember. The German Shepherd pressed his head against her shoulder, tail wagging slowly, a soft whine escaping his throat. A sound of love, gratitude, and peace. After the ceremony, Tom lifted Lily into his arms as she waved goodbye to the officers. Think Mom would have been proud? She asked quietly. Tom smiled through his tears. More than you'll ever know. That night, as stars scattered across the sky, Lily sat on the porch beside Ranger, the metal glimmering under the moonlight. You know, she said softly, I only paid $1 for you, but what you gave me was worth a lifetime. Ranger rested his head in her lap, eyes half closed, content. The wind carried a gentle stillness as if the world itself was listening. And in that quiet moment, one truth remained. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness, and even a single dollar, can buy something far greater than anyone could ever imagine. A second chance at love, life, and forever.